What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, cloud swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hope you guys are feeling good. Hope you guys had a good weekend. And hopefully you didn't let the Friday sell-off really damper the mood a little bit. But it's all good. We got Albert in the house. We got Amy. Good morning to you. Good morning to Anna, Andy. Good morning to Brad, Emily, Eric, John, Keith, Lauren, Lydia in the house. Malik, good morning. We got Marius, Martina, Michelle, Ray, Rob, Tom is with us. Good morning to Tim, Wendy, all my people out in YouTube land. Clarice making it in there first. Good morning to you. Good morning to Mustafa, who's claiming he's first, but that is just not correct. Yeah, there you go. He corrected it. So he fact checked himself second. Okay, good morning to you. We got Leonard. Good morning. We got M Sky. Hostile, good morning. All my lurkers in the back of YouTube land. It's okay. I still love you. Hit that like and subscribe button. But so what do we have in the market? Uh every level of support that we talked about on Friday definitely broke down. It did not a lot of real news, to be honest. It was just more of just lack of buyers. Bulls maybe a little bit tired of buying, getting a little exhausted. In the mentor group, we were looking at, I think it was last week. Somebody in the group, let me know if I forget if it was, I think Monday of last week. We were looking at some of the Wendy. I think you were asking about RSI, and we were kind of looking at divergence. There is a lot of divergence in the overall market, which is usually a little sign for a reversal. So the real question is, what in the world are we doing? And There, I've, and I also, it's very interesting. Once the market sells off, you start to see like a lot of like people who don't really trade the market or don't really post about the market, like in Facebook or Twitter or wherever else, they start coming out and whether they're blaming politics or whatever the case for their reasoning is. Fact of the matter is, there were just no buyers. It was just more pressure to the sell side. Uh, but they're all saying, well, yeah, that was like one of the biggest drops we've had. We also hit all-time highs last week as well. So it's very hard to say that this candle is sustainable at the moment. You see this little downtrend that we've had, bull flag. We never really came back. We never really bounced off of it. So this is the support. This this was the resistance. Now that should be the support. We closed right at the bottom of that. Was the sell off a little bit more than expected? Yeah, for sure. I thought maybe if we start breaking these higher levels, we start holding what should be really good support 604.86 today. If we can make it back up, that 604.86 will be my next resistance. We start getting above it. We might see a little slow creep back up to the 609. I don't know if that happens today. This should have been a really good support. It wasn't. We just cut right through it. So we'll see if that resistance wants to now kind of act differently. Let's go back to a weekly chart. We've we do have almost bearish engulfing candle. Didn't quite break out the low of January. But no, my bad. This is a weekly. But just really still inside chop. Nothing has really moved in this market. If we go back to January 21st, we're just really inside that week. So not a lot of actual progression or real declines in the market unless you've been buying at all-time highs. There is obviously some rumors in the market. There's some sentiment shifting news, all of that, where you have Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway. They're hoarding cash. They've been doing it for a while as the market has continued to ride up. So in a longer term perspective, maybe this is the top. Maybe we get that big pullback. Maybe Warren Buffett could deploy some of the cash that he's got sitting on the side, and it turns out to be a good move. For right now, I don't think we have anything that's really telling us this market is absolutely collapsing. That was the all-time high, and we go through a COVID-like recession. I don't see it happening, not yet. The bigger news that nobody's talking about, I think, that will impact the markets and the global markets is the Fort Knox gold. I honestly think we have Trump who's hiring or using Elon to audit all of the government. And they did start talking about how much gold we actually have in Fort Knox for the US. And I think Elon said he wants to even live stream it to should get the accountability that we either have all the gold that the U.S. government says we do, or we've actually loaned it out, never got it back, and we have empty vaults in Fort Knox. That I think will be a much bigger implication on the actual market. You do see gold kind of rallying, so I think if you don't have the gold there, gold probably just increases in value a lot. But it is also going to let the American people know and the world know if the U.S. government is actually trustworthy in some of the finances or they've been lying. And once you start taking away some of the trust from the federal institutions of the U.S., now that affects the bonds, that affects a lot of things. So I don't know. I think that's going to be a bigger story if as it develops. So we'll watch it. But for today, we are getting a little bit bounce in the SPY. Look for support at essentially Friday's low, $600, 620. If we get a little pullback, we are opening into a little resistance. My guess is that was a much bigger sell-off candle than expected, and probably there's some shaken bulls that are looking at this balance going, okay, let me start locking some gains. So I think we do hit a little pressure. I don't think this little gap up is sustainable at open, besides maybe a dollar, something like that, and then see if we get that pullback later in the day or tomorrow. Look for some kind of recovery. Also, just in general, the second half of February is usually a little bit weaker. Brian says, "No kidding, Fort Knox is huge." Yeah, uh-huh. There's been like some story, but it's not as big of a story yet. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, February is usually a little bit like the second half up until mid-March is usually a little bit weaker in general. So seeing some big red days, it's not really too shocking. That could also revolve a little bit around taxes and some stuff like that too. But you got Qs. We are again. I would have liked to see, I would have liked to see probably 532.67 hold. But if you get all the way back down to 528.39, essentially where we're opening now, that's really where we should have held, and we had a good close right through it. So again, maybe some extra momentum came in, pushed it, but we are opening right into that support resistance. So let's see if we can get above it first, come back, hold that, then you might have at least a little bit of room to 529.64 and then up to 532.77. If this is just a retrace back to what should have held in the first place, I would really be looking for support around 526.51. And then if that doesn't hold, I think you got room down to 523.70 for today, providing no other real news. We do have a couple bond auctions, 6 month, things like that. I think it will be interesting to see how that kind of holds after Friday to see if there's more little flight to safety. And we talked about gold for a second. Gold is rallying. So you are at, I don't know if this is all-time highs on gold. I think it is. Yep. But you do have gold jumping up as well. So we are hitting at least 52-week highs. To me, it looks like all-time highs, at least with this ETF. So we'll see what happens. But big moves. The rally still continues in precious metals. Silver, I think, was gapping up a tad. And again, both of those, gold and silver, yeah. So we're gapping up a little bit. Silver had a little bit of a little sell-off on Friday as well. But precious metals still kind of hanging in there, and both of these will be affected. Bonds, I think, will be affected by some of this kind of a little bit of just on the edge in the market. TLT is gapping down a little bit, so we'll see again how those bonds really come in. Emily says that's the all-time high. Yeah. All right. That's the other thing with gold too. There could be a certain point where gold is just not affordable for average people, and that is going to shift actually a little bit more weight into silver being that next big run. I don't know. All right, we got a couple tickers coming in, so let me see if this is the first ones. Yep, it is. So I got Google as the first one, GOOGL. The Googs is rough day on Friday. We do have this wide open gap still, and that has not been hit yet. I think really good support on Friday should have been this 183.87. We got below it. You are kind of rallying back, probably giving some of those bulls second chance to just get out, admit they were wrong, and probably try to come back down again. Maybe with that big of a candle inside day today. Otherwise, I would look for support around 180.12. Maybe if you want to try to short this thing, see if it comes up a little bit higher. It says 183.87. And then I think bigger targets on this one will be that gap fill closer to this 200 EMA, somewhere around 175.36. But I do like it a little bit more to the short side. I think you have better risk to reward to the short side. Palantir is not looking great. Still inside of Thursday's wick toward the bottom edge of it. Again, it looks a little rougher. I think at open, you might have a little risk reward to the bull side. I don't think I'd be playing it bullish. I think I'd like to try to figure out how to get into this bearish, which to me, at least a better location would be $100.95. I think you get your stop somewhere above 109.53. You have your gap fill all the way back to 84.87. Don't forget, retailers love this name. It will have a bounce eventually, but do we get all the way down to this gap fill, or are we just kind of playing around this range and then you see one more rally? Otherwise, for today, yeah, I don't think I'd be leaning to the bull side unless you're very, very quick out of the gate and you need that thing to just kind of pick momentum up right away. But the higher you go, the more interested I think I'd be to the downward side pressure for Palantir. Tesla has some good news today. Interesting timing. Not enough to really get them to a great level, but by that I mean if we could squeeze up above, let's say 345, that would get us a little bit more. Maybe this is a double bottom. Keep in mind, all we really did is come down, retest this untested VPOC. So if you're looking for a really good risk reward bull trade, that came to you on Friday, and you want to see that level hold, probably stops underneath this little move here. But we'll see what happens. Otherwise, the news came out that they are finally rolling out the FSD in China, so some positivity there. Again, at open though, I'd be cautious on playing this bullish unless we start getting some closes above 345. Otherwise, I think this is probably a fade. I wouldn't necessarily want to see us get down to 334.69 again because we've already hit it once. A little bit more likely that breaks the second time, and then I think you're looking for like some kind of decent support around 337.72 if the Bulls can maintain this little rally. And they do have some decent news, so I already have that kind of higher on the list for me. And we'll see if we can get some move into that one. Wendy says, anyone else having issues with Thinkorswim? I have not. What are the issues? Yeah, I've been able to log in and everything seems to be moving so far. So, won't log in. It did take a little extra time when they were installing the updates, but otherwise it did let me in eventually. It's stuck at installing updates. Yeah, just let it go. Yeah, it did take me a little extended time. AI is chilling again. Everything kind of looks like it's a little bit like it wants to come down further. Um, for today, it's an okay open. Again, on a daily perspective, it does look a little rough still. You have earnings coming out soon. So earnings supposed to be February 26th. I think if you can, worst case again, the opening is not bad. You want this thing to stay above 28.53. You start getting some closing below that, and you probably just continue that trend from the last 2 days, 3 days. But the daily's not in a great spot. I think you eventually have the ability to probably get back down to 27.73. You also have a gap fill all the way back to November 18th, and that's around 26.32. So starting to look like it's getting to some interesting spots if you like it. And like I said, I think it just depends on where we actually open on this one. To the bull side, I'd have to watch the targets on this one to 28.92. So you don't have tremendous risk reward unless you think we're going to get through this 28.92, and then maybe you have a little bit of a bigger push to 29.51 or $30 into that range, into that 200 EMA. But for right now, I wouldn't go bearish quite yet unless you are breaking down yesterday's VPOC somewhere around 28. Friday's VPOC around 28.54. And I think that would be just kind of follow the trend down. But interesting location to say I don't want to short it yet. I don't think there's enough risk to reward, so I'd watch it with a little bit more emphasis probably on the short side of it for now. Let's get this one higher. Tom said I had issues with TOS, had to remove the check in the box next to you, remember? Oh, and then it worked. All right, look at that. We getting some inside tips. Mine, I think the checkbox was there still, but yeah, I don't know. XYZ, aka block, aka square, aka jumped off a bridge on Friday, and still not a great open. Yeah, I was looking for some holding around this $72 range. Again, overextended selling across the market. Their earnings of a 20% miss, earnings per share, and then a missed revenue. Not a great environment to miss, especially on a big, massive sell-off day. I think this one might have a little bit more room to the down south side of things at this point. So, uh, probably looking for like 65.38 would not a great location. So at least AI was above yesterday's VPOC, so maybe you get a little lifeline there. I think for this point, 68.34 is a really good short location, and I think you're probably going to struggle with that. Maybe that's the spot for you to hop in short and see if there's more pressure to the downside. But yeah, somewhere around the $65 range, and then I got bigger, yeah, right at 65, 65.01 would be an interesting spot for support. If it can maintain it, if we start losing that, you have probably room down to like 61.22 and 57.17. So not crazy. Not crazy time to go bullish yet. I do have some options I picked up on Friday, right around that 72 zone. I have some time on it, but probably on some bounces, I'll just clear it out. It's not really doing what I wanted to. I got Apple is giving us a little bit of a reversal candle. Was there news on Apple today? Uh, Apple's U.S. investment shows Cook had some political chops. What does that mean? Like pork chops he was eating? Apple's $500 billion investment in domestic manufacturing shows that Tim Cook is 10% politician, 90% CEO. Okay. Research note Donald Trump told reporters on Friday that he had met with Cook, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, he just had a meeting with Trump on Friday. But again, is this a chart that I'm saying this thing is definitely weak, or did we just have one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 green days, and then we actually hit new highs on the recent trend on Friday before the rest of the market pulled back, and it kind of held up pretty well. For today, I don't think I would want to go in a bullish direction. At this point, you are clearing one, two, three, four, five VPOCs, so there is some bulls maybe starting to lose a little bit of gains, and I think this rally will probably get you a bigger drop. First spot I would look into is about 241.31 for targets. Maybe we could run into this like 239.50. Otherwise, you have one all the way back to like 236.33. So I do like the downside a little bit more. Probably a retest at open, and I think the better spot to short would be somewhere in this 244.36 range. Just seeing if you get a little bit of a higher price as Friday was a retest with this gap today. So we'll see on that one. Hood was another one. I do have to sell some more cover calls today on them. I had the 55 for Friday for this last Friday. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh, maybe I could save my shares, and they did. I kept them. But for today, it's an okay spot. Depends on where this stock is when the bell rings. You are again right at, but slightly underneath support on from Friday. So you should be looking for 52.39 for a little bit of resistance. If we could squeeze above it, that might give us some room back into like 54.14, and a really extended good day would take us to about 55.19. So we might be able to get back into that range for today if the market wants to. Again, I'm not looking for I don't think the dippers are in the market the same way they were before, and that probably will continue, I think, for maybe about another week or two. I would say probably more like 2 weeks. And I think that has to do a little bit with the timing of number one, the markets, and also relates around the tax dates. So, um, yeah, I'm not sure where this one's going to open. Now you're slightly above that VPOC. But you do have some risk reward. If you start breaking down the lows of Friday, I think your next target to the short side is about 49.47. If you never break down Friday's candle today and we just kind of remain inside day with a little bit of bullish sentiment hopping in, some of the buy the dippers might be here. But yeah, wait for this one in live markets to get above this 52.45 zone, I think first. SEC closing hood crypto investigation. All right, well, you have some positive news. It doesn't look like, again, it's kind of like Tesla, which had good news and is just opening into a resistance as well. So, uh, that's not bad news for a hood. But you would think if a company has really good news, you get above some of those key resistance. So I'm not sure that we're not the market's just not going to take those positivity stories and just sell into the rips at this point. But you're getting a little bit of some room. Let me see. We got 287A. Looks like it's been on a path. If you're holding this one already, I would probably look to continue to hold, maybe sell a couple shares. But everything else in this one looks like it probably has some more upside to this one if you're in it. Look for some kind of support if you get some kind of bouncing somewhere around 1133 in this one. Otherwise, if it does start breaking that, you might see a little bit of a pullback and then just try to protect yourself on the pullbacks. Otherwise, really healthy looking chart. Yeah, cleared, had a big pivot down, held pretty much right where you wanted it to. Good continuation, so everything looks decent there for continuation. I would look to be buying those dips. Hims, Hims, I think. Oh, they got earnings. Was there earnings this morning or oh, they have earnings tonight? They got some earnings tonight. Um, Let me see something real quick. 32% short float. This, unfortunately, is the pullback. So if you liked Hims on Thursday or Wednesday, you're getting a much better price on it. 32% short float if they do come in with good numbers. This might be one. I don't think I'm playing this one through earnings, but if they do come in with good earnings, retail stock, retailers love it. High short float, and you could see a squeeze after hours today on this. Otherwise, you've already run up massively from $24 and one penny on January 10th all the way up to $70 with a massive run. Even coming into earnings today, at this point, you're still up 100% if you were buying Hims on that day. So I don't know if this is enough for me to be really excited for a pullback for today, though. It is gapping down. You do have your support of your 20 EMA. It is a little bit of a retest gap. Really, support on this one psychologically would be right below this candle from February 13th, or right at the lows of it. 47.50, but you do have 46.39 is the real first support. Otherwise, retest gap, maybe get some bullish momentum just ahead of earnings, 51.75. Again, 36% short float. If they do have good earnings and this thing wants to run, maybe that will be the case. And you get a big short squeeze on this one after hours. Kind of like Kava. Kind of even like, I mean, I don't think App has that much of a short float on it compared to Hims. So we'll see. That will definitely be one that you could probably play after hours. I might wait for that report. I might have to wait for that report to come out and then play that one after hours. But I don't think I want to touch it ahead of it. TEM again looks a lot like everything else. Obviously, you had good momentum in this one. You are gapping up, so it is a gap and go. Still inside day, and you're just gapping into that resistance. So I don't know. I think I'd be patient if we could get slightly above, which looks like pre-market we just jumped a little bit, but give me $70 or higher. Yeah, we didn't get there quite yet. But yeah, give me $70 and then you still have $70.76. And then I think your bigger target for today would probably take you into 73.52. Maybe get to 74.09. But I think we're gonna need the market to really start stampeding in a bullish direction to recover some of the sentiment loss, or maybe some good earnings. Maybe I don't think the 6 month bonds are really gonna be enough to set us there. So we need a few things. We need something else to kind of even just negate the consumer sentiment from Friday. We shall see. Let's see what else we got. What about the X token? Um, is that like XUSD or is it like is it trading on like Moonshot? Is it like one of those tokens? If it's the tokens, yeah, I don't know if I even have the chart for it. We could look at this one. I don't know if this is what you're talking about. MSCI US swap. I don't think this is it. Yeah. I don't think this is what you're talking about. Otherwise, there is X, which is a ticker, but that's not a coin. US Steel looks like it is hanging out, coming into a little bit of support somewhere around 36.61. If we start losing it, your last hope on this one, 35.99 before you probably see bigger sell-offs. A little bit of a gap fill down here, and then probably a better spot to wait for if you're bullish, 33.79 in this one. But yeah, give me a ticker that can be found in TradingView on that one. Beth says, thanks, catching up on replay. I got you. All right, let's see if we have let me know if you guys have a couple others out there, but here's one on pins. Pins looks still a little bit weak. You do have, again, a little retest gap. See if you could short that one maybe a tad higher, but otherwise you're looking for a break, specifically around 37.43. If that could break down, you probably have room today to 36.97 with, I think, bigger targets into this 36 range. So maybe pins with a little bit more pressure. I don't know why I said it like that. It was weird. Let's take a look at Baba real quick as well. Baba might have a good fade trade on this one today. You have some bulls trap, decent volume on that one. We're still inside this high wave candle, but below that VPOC. See if this one can get bid up. See if this stalls out around 137.88. And maybe some profit taking comes in. And I think you have bigger targets down to 126.35. So at some point, I don't think we don't see that number again. Let's take a look at JD.com. That one's also pulling back a tad. That one looks a little rough. You might have some resistance at $40.83, but I think some of these Chinese stock names might be a little bit more shortable today too, after a decent run up. Palantir melted down. Yeah, Sound is another one. Sound reports, I think, Thursday after the bell, and now the bell has rang, and I think TradingView at least is a little bit slower. Sound is pulling back. See if Sound can hold $9.89. Otherwise, you probably come a little bit lower, at least to this 200. $9.43. Anything below that, you're looking for 883. So a little bit more room to the downside on Sound as well. Other than that, that was the morning bell. So everybody in YouTube land, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. I do expect a little bit of chop, a little bit of still, I think, bearish pressure on the markets. AMD is dropping too from my other screen. Other than that,